Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Schmedding. I'm a PhD student at McGill University in Montreal, and I'm the graduate mentor for the Atmospheric Sciences group. So Rachel asked us to make these introduction slides kind of for each of the groups. We've all kind of taken a different approach to them. And when I was making these, I was trying to think about kind of how each of the groups fits into the broader Earth system. And the thought occurred to me that each of these groups kind of corresponds to one of the four classical elements, right? So we have water, earth, fire. This one was a bit of a stretch, but there were at least 2 presentations on wildfires yesterday, so. And air. So with that, I would like to introduce the Atmospheric Sciences group. So as you all know, we did flight days and ground truthing. I personally think I really enjoyed the flights that we did, and being an atmospheric scientist, a lot of the measurements that we were taking were sort of atmospheric science relevance. The cool thing about atmospheric science as a group topic is that it's super broad. So I'm an aerosol physicist, so I look at multi-phase chemistry and things like that. But we also have people who are interested in boundary layer dynamics, air quality, climatology, aerosol radiation interactions, all kinds of things. So doing these flights, we were able to take tons of different measurements on all kinds of things. I think everyone who was on a flight was able to physically feel the boundary layer. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about when you feel that thunk when you cross it. And then the continued rattling as you stay in the boundary layer. But yeah, so I think we had a great time. I really enjoyed taking all the measurements that we did, especially all the aerosol ones, but that's just me being an aerosol geek. And this is our faculty advisor too, Dr. Guanyu Huang, who's been dealing with his own battles with the atmosphere as he's had 3 flights canceled in the last week. So best of luck when he leaves to go back to Stony Brook later this week. And then we did ground truthing, and you may be wondering, well, the atmosphere is up there and the ground is down here, right? So how do we do measurements of the atmosphere from the ground, right? So one thing we did is we launched a weather balloon from Beltsville, Maryland, which is in between several government and military sites. And the staff there were telling us all kinds of crazy stories about sending balloons up in drones in the middle of the night and then getting a knock on the door from the FBI. So if you're going to send a balloon up, maybe the Washington, D.C. metro area is not the best place to do that. And then the second day, we went to what some people call the greatest city in the world, Baltimore, Maryland, where we met with some staff at Johns Hopkins University, and they have this really cool mobile lab that we got to drive around in Baltimore, taking measurements of air pollution and looking at underserved communities. So this was funded by the Bloomberg Foundation, and they're actually building a second one now, but it was just written up in the New York Times, so I encourage everyone to go look up a little bit about the Mom and Pop Lab. We also learned a little bit about the maximum operating temperature of some of the instruments because they didn't really know until that day, and then it was a very hot day, and we learned that the instruments cannot run above about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. But just thinking a little bit about my experience with ground truthing, it felt a little bit like this. Guanyu described the Beltsville site as, I believe he said, high degree of solar radiation, which basically meant standing in direct sunlight for about an hour while we waited for the balloon to pump up. I think some of my students may have learned their first French-Canadian swear word from Montreal when they were standing next to me, because that was a very hot day, and I'm not used to those temperatures anymore. And then driving in Baltimore, before we set out on our drive around the city of Baltimore, one of the professors at Johns Hopkins decided to tell me that Baltimore has one of the highest rates of traffic accidents per mile of any city in America, which was a great thing to tell me right before I started following a very expensive mobile lab. And that was a little bit like this. Anyone who's driven in Baltimore knows what it's like. That was the only time I've ever seen someone stop at a red light and then run it. I've seen people run red lights before. I've never seen someone stop and then be like, you know what, I'm gonna go. But all in all, I had a great time. It was super fun. And dealing with all the stress of ground truthing, we were able to cut loose a little bit after work. So we went bowling at this kind of divey bowling alley in Chincoteague Island. It was a little bit damp in there. I'm a little concerned about like mold issues in that place. But and then we also had some people who were quite good at playing poker. I don't know who the reigning poker champion of SARP is. Is it Alyssa? Who is it? Isabel? I don't know. There were a lot of poker games I stopped attending because I like to go to bed at like 9:30 and people were playing at midnight. But yeah, I think everyone had a great time in the Atmospheric Sciences group. And we came up with this name for ourselves, the Atmospheric Amigos, on our very first day. I'm big on democracy and letting the students vote, and this is what they decided to call themselves. So we have two groups today. The first is the Captain's Denizens. So the Captain's Den was the cafe across the street from Christopher Newport, and I think these three students maybe single-handedly kept the business afloat this summer. It's a very funny story. One of them in the car yesterday was telling us that they had turned in their like 10 coffees, get $4 off your next coffee card, and the barista asked them if they wanted a new card, and they had to say, no, we're leaving this week, and the barista was absolutely crestfallen that they would not be purchasing absurd quantities of coffee forever. So with that, I will go to our first presentation, which is Danny Jones. Her hometown is Gillette, Wyoming, and she attends the University of Wyoming, where she majors in environmental systems science. A fun fact about her is that she has refused to correct my pronunciation of Wyoming this entire summer. Is it Wyoming or Wyoming? Who knows? And her topic, coming from one of the most mountainous states in the US, she decided to look where somewhere more mountainous, and that's the Himalayas. So she's going to be looking at remote sensing of poor air quality in mountains, a case study in Kathmandu, Nepal. Next, we have Maddie Holland. She's from Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and she attends the University of Alabama at Huntsville, where she's majoring in atmospheric and earth science. Fun fact about Maddie is that she loves Wawa iced coffees. I took several people in my group to Wawa for the first time this summer, and then got multiple requests to go back just for the iced coffees. If you've never been to Wawa, I highly recommend it. It's an experience. And her topic is going to be analyzing the transport and impact of the June 2023 Canadian wildfire smoke on surface PM2.5 levels in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And then we have Michelle Arachi, who is from Prospect, Connecticut, and attends the University of Connecticut, where they're majoring in environmental science with minors in statistics and climate science. And a fun fact about them is that they love cats. So they suggested that we go do a group bonding activity at a cat cafe, where I learned that I'm allergic to cats. But they have a job taking care of the live Yukon Husky, whose name is Jonathan, which is a questionable name for a dog. And their topic is trends in transport of tropospheric ozone from New York City to Connecticut in the summer of 2023. Now, the other group of students I had like to hang out in Tribble Library, so I call them the Trouble and Tribble. And next we have Stefan. So many pictures of Stefan, it was a really hard time choosing which one was the best one. Stefan is from Plymouth, Minnesota, and he attends Iowa State University, where he's majoring in meteorology with a minor in music. He's been giving us daily weather updates every day, but he's not been giving us a daily song, so maybe we should get on that for the last few days. A fun fact about Stefan is that he really likes eggs. I often would get locked out of my room, and I would often go into the kitchen after that, and like no matter what time of day, Stefan was in there eating eggs. Like, I don't know if people remember a few years ago when eggs got really expensive. That was just like Stefan getting a little bit extra hungry. And his topic is on correlations between the planetary boundary layer height and the lifting condensation level. Then we have Angelica Cousin. Her hometown is Dewey Beach, Delaware, and she attends the University of Delaware, where she's majoring in environmental science. Fun fact about her is that she used to work in a bar, and so we did a taco night, and she's very insistent on having the best lime preparation method, and I can confirm it was very efficient. She's also a triplet, which is kind of amazing. Like, the statistics of that is so rare. And her topic is going to be kind of bridging the gap between atmosphere and ocean and talking about coupling of chlorophyll A concentrations and aerosol optical depth in the subantarctic Southern Ocean and South China Sea from 2019 to 2021. And lastly, we have Chris Hauptman. Chris is from Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and he attends Hanover College, where he's studying mechanical engineering. Fun fact about Chris, I've learned that he really likes pineapple. He's also really good at cooking large quantities of taco meat, so when we made tacos, Chris just kind of like shut down and like was monitoring the stove and cooked all like 10 pounds of taco meat in like 30 minutes. Also, fun fact, it's his birthday tomorrow. He's been keeping that on the down low, but we gotta do something for him, y'all. And Chris decided, I'm working for NASA this summer. I want to do a very NASA project. And what's more NASA than rockets, right? So his topic will be on estimating carbon dioxide emissions from rocket plumes using in situ data from the low Earth atmosphere. And now I just want to take an opportunity to thank everyone who really made this possible: Rachel, Stephanie, Barry, Melissa, Jack, Riley, all the graduate mentors. Yeah, we really couldn't have done it without all of you, all those SARP interns. Thank you guys so much. It's been a great summer.